What is good, defenders, and welcome to episode 320. 320. Hey, that's my birthday. 320. 20th. Of Defenders of the Bank, the LAFC podcast that your mother warned you about. That's right. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, ready to get this one kicked off. Philly back in London now, as he was in London and then Germany and then Paris. And now he's back in London. So a rough couple of weeks for Philly for sure. He's been taking lots of cool pictures, doing lots of cool things. But want to say what's up to everybody in the chat, everybody following us on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere that you get our podcast. We appreciate it. On Twitter, of course, as well, and on YouTube. And hello to the millions. And I have nobody else to say back, and millions. So that's a little weird right now. What's up, Rob? What's up, Smarty? What's up to everybody in the chat? It is a jovial day in Los Angeles for sure, as LAFC headed into the semifinals of the 2024 Leagues Cup with a sound beating of the Seattle Sounders 3-0. Probably their best effort over their last several matches, because I do think that is, thank you, Edgar. I do think that is a very, very good, Seattle side, certainly. So I know they're only 7th in the West, but to get to the quarterfinals in the way that they did it, beating a couple of quality teams for sure, in both Pumas and in Carson, look, it's a club that you have to respect for sure. Here on episode 320, we're going to do all the usual suspects first. We've got the This Day in LAFC History and a little bit of news and notes. Many of you in the chat, Rob included right now, talking about how the 3-4-3 is working, or the 3-3-5-2, or whatever it is that we decide to run a couple of times. Steve Cherundolo talked about possibly going back to the 4-3-3 in the press conference, and we'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. So again, episode 320, that's the area code for St. Cloud, Minnesota and surrounding cities, in case you were curious about area code 320. And just want to remind everybody that the Mo Fascio Futsal Court fundraising effort is underway still. Go to LAFC.com/Mo-Fascio. The court now being built in Cudahy. So if you want to donate, please head on over to LAFC.com/Mo-Fascio and get that court built out in Cudahy. So, quick thing about Leagues Cup moving forward. We know who our next opponent is. We know it's Colorado. Colorado coming back, being down on PKs. Zach Steffen making a big save, beating Club America in Carson so that we don't have to play down in Carson against Club America. I know many of you watching are Club America fans. My apologies. I would have absolutely loved the epic matchup of LAFC and Club America, but unfortunately, it's the Colorado Rapids. So don't worry. We'll have one more sleep on Tuesday for our match on Wednesday. But the bad news about the other side of the bracket, both matches did not go LAFC's way. Not in terms of opponent, because I really don't care who we play at this point. Yes, Mazatlan and NYCFC are probably not as good as Columbus and Philadelphia. But unfortunately, with both Columbus and Philadelphia making it to their semifinal match against each other, that means that the Leagues Cup final will be on the road for LAFC. So that means we'll play either Philly or Columbus in either Philly or Columbus once we get past Colorado. But Colorado, they've now beaten 4 Liga MX sides. So good on Colorado. It's going to be a fun matchup for sure. Georgi Mihailovic, Cole Bassett, Sam Vines, some very, very good players. And of course, with Zach Steffen in the back of the net, the former U.S. men's national team darling in goal, the former Manchester City man. I was going to say, oh, how the mighty have fallen, but he's been one of the best keepers in this tournament by far. So, excuse me, that's what's going on with the rest of the Leagues Cup bracket. Let's get into a very quick bit of this day in LAFC history. Today is August 18th, 2024, but the game actually happened on August 17th, 2024. What's good, Bam? We do have some history on August 17th. Back in 2019, LAFC traveled to Rio Tinto Stadium to take on RSL, Real Salt Lake, We beat them pretty handily 2-0 with goals from Carlos Vela and Adama Diomande. Both of those goals coming as the teams were playing 10v10. Walker Zimmerman earned his second yellow in the 48th minute to go off on a red. And then Aaron Herrera gets a red card in the 62nd minute for RSL. So for the last 30 minutes or so of the match, LAFC and RSL played 10v10. Carlos Vela on a penalty and Adama Diomande in the 82nd minute to salt it away. With that win back in 2019, LAFC clinched a playoff berth, and Carlos Vela broke the record for most combined goals and assists in a season with 39. He would go on to notch 10 more, 49 goals across the season in MLS for Carlos Vela back in 2019. And again, just one of those things. I miss Adama Diomande too, you guys. It's a shame that Adama never came back to LAFC, and unfortunately the wheels just kind of fell off. Let's get into a couple of very quick news and notes. LAFC was tweeting about it today. It is confirmed that the Vancouver match that we were supposed to play against them in just a couple of days has now been rescheduled. Turns out a little less Vancouver in our lives for now. LAFC advancing in Leagues Cup and having the Open Cup semifinal on the horizon. MLS has rescheduled our match against the Vancouver Whitecaps. The match, which was supposed to originally take place next Saturday, August 24th, has now been moved to Sunday, October 13th. And that'll be at 4 p.m. If you were hoping to get one more trip before school starts this summer, unfortunately, your Vancouver trip will not include a match against LAFC. But if you stick around till Sunday, August 25th, LAFC 2 is playing Vancouver Whitecaps 2. So you can check that out. I don't quite remember where their stadium is that Whitecaps 2 plays in. It's not BC Place in Vancouver. But I just want to remind you guys about LAFC 2 having a match up in the Great White North Sunday, August 25th. LAFC 2's last match, they defeated Portland Timbers 2 5-3 on PKs after playing to a fun 2-2 draw in regulation. Luis Muller and LAFC 2 captain Diego Rosales were the goal scorers for LAFC 2. And again, they needed all 5 of their PKs into the back of the net to salt it away for another 2-point win for LAFC 2. Playoffs coming up soon in MLS Next Pro, so that'll be fun. And as a reminder, for all of your ACFC needs, Angel City Football Club, be sure to listen to Angel City Chicks and to follow at Angel City Chicks on all your social media platforms. And just like that, we're not wasting any time, you guys. It's the scarf. It's just me. You guys don't want to hear me talk for a full hour. I want to have banter back and forth. I've got no Philly. It's been a while since I've had Philly to banter with now on a couple of these things. So I know, look, I may have the sweet, sultry voice that you're all used to hearing. However, I know that many of you would rather not listen to my voice the entire time. Code 3 on Instagram. I love you too. All right, cool. Love that. All right, so let's get into LAFC versus Seattle. Only 2 teams in the history of Leagues Cup have made it to the quarterfinals in both editions, last year's and this year's, us and the Philadelphia Union. We, of course, had never made it into the semis as we lost to Monterrey last year in a heartbreaker. So LAFC looking to make it into the semis for the first time. You all know what happened. It was an absolute butt-kicking 3-0. And honestly, some of the worst I've seen Seattle play as a unit in our 7 years against Seattle Sounders. Look, some of these guys are getting a little long in the tooth, right? You got Raul Ruidiaz, who's not himself anymore. I feel like they've had Nuhu and Yeimar and Joao Paulo now and Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan and Alex Roldan. They've had some of these guys for forever now. And I don't know. I think the roster turnover that is going to happen sooner rather than later, there's not a lot left in the cupboard with the players that they have coming up. There's also an empty transfer window for the most part. We'll talk about De La Vega in just a second. But to be perfectly honest, just not a quality side that they are fielding right now. So let's talk about how they got here. Head coach Brian Schmetzer guided them through the group stage by beating Minnesota United 2-0. They did lose to Necaxa 3-1, but again, after that win to Minnesota, they were able to rest players. They kind of knew their fate already going forward, with Necaxa needing to win in their next match, and of course getting, I think they got beat. No, I always forget. Oh, Minnesota. Minnesota got beat. And so Necaxa winds up moving on. In the round of 32, though, the impressive win was that they beat Carson 3-1. It was a very good win for Seattle against a very good Carson team. And I know I've said it, and I'll say it again. They're a very quality side. And with Marco Royce coming in, they're going to be even a little bit better. But I don't know. I'm not sold on the Marco Royce move, making them, I don't know, MLS Cup contenders or favorites or whatever. They're already contenders with the lineup they have. But I do think LAFC with Olivier Giroud will be better than Galaxy with Marco Royce. We'll see how that all goes. In the round of 16, they beat Pumas 4-0 in a rather emphatic but kind of sad win. Pumas did not look good. And again, just another solid match for Seattle. Going into this, Seattle had a ton of momentum. Seattle had a lot of optimism coming into this match. A couple of changes made, or at least one in particular, that I know. I don't know how the Seattle faithful is feeling. I don't really know if it would have mattered all that much, but they come out in their 4-2-3-1. And a big change was in the back of the net. They bring in a cold goalkeeper. Cold mainly because the last time he was between the pipes at all was July 20th against LAFC. That's us. That's almost 30 days ago. And he lost 3-0 last time he was between the pipes. Stefan Fry. They were giving Andrew Thomas Leagues Cup up until this match. He had started all 4 matches against Minnesota, Necaxa, Carson, and Pumas, and had played very well. 2 clean sheets. Only had given up 4 goals in the 4 matches. So nothing that you're looking at kind of alarming from Andrew Thomas. He does not get the start. Stefan Fry gets the start, and we all know what happened there. The very familiar backline of Nuhu, Jackson Reagan, Yeimar Gomez Andrade, and Alex Roldan. In the midfield, Obed Vargas, who is, again, he's a teenager. He's going to be very good. He's really fun to watch. He just didn't have a good match in this one. And Joao Paulo. And then at forwards, Paul Rothrock, who is just a whiny little brat, and I don't like him at all. And I'm okay with you hearing that, Paul Rothrock. I don't like you. You're a whiny brat. Albert Rusnak, Christian Roldan, and Jordan Morris at the top. We mentioned Albert Rusnak in One More Sleep. 5 goals, 13 assists on the season. Really impressed with his play this season. But again, excuse me, just not a good match overall. They're 18. The 5 that we would see were Josh Atencio, Raul Ruidiaz, Leo Chu, Reed Baker-Whiting, and Danny Leyva. Danny Leyva instead of Pedro de la Vega. And Pedro de la Vega was a huge signing who has missed something like 27 games for them this season. And the way that you know he's not healthy is that when Schmetzer went to make his subs in the 60th minute to try and change the match at least a little, which by then it was already too late, he did not bring Pedro de la Vega off the bench. So I don't believe that Pedro de la Vega is anywhere near healthy as of right now. And I think it was just a tactic to try to get us to maybe plan for him. I don't know, but when you don't see him out on the pitch, you don't have to plan for him. The other player who we didn't see that I was kind of hoping we would, why not? Because I love the guy, is Danny Musovski. But we did not see Danny Musovski in this match. So again, Josh Atencio, Raul Ruidiaz, Leo Chu, Reed Baker-Whiting, and Danny Leyva. LAFC would come out in a 3-4-3 with almost no changes. And we're going to talk about the changes in just a second. Hugo Lloris on the back line and the 5 shell that we have been building. The 3 in the back, Murillo, Chanot, and Long, have been excellent. Sergi Palencia and Ryan Hollingshead. I think Sergi Palencia was July's player of the month for LAFC. Nobody more deserving than that. Ryan Hollingshead, who would have a fantastic game in this one, and is really rounding back into form, which is pretty big. In the midfield, our two midfielders were Edward Atuesta and Ilie Sanchez. I thought Ilie Sanchez very, very quietly played a very good game, and I thought Edward Atuesta a little less quietly played a very good game in this one. And our front three consisting of no surprise with Matty Bogusz, no surprise with Denis Bouanga, a little bit of a surprise with Kai Kamara getting the start, and I'll tell you why. Apparently, allegedly, Kike Oliveira picked up a hamstring injury in training, maybe even in the last match. I don't know how true that is, and I'll tell you why. We might have FC Cincinnati to blame if anything happens, but I actually have a side theory that Kike Oliveira was being held out of this match because there are potential negotiations with Como FC in Serie A. They moved from Serie B to Serie A this season, so they're playing in the top flight for their first time in a little bit. There were rumors surrounding Kike Oliveira earlier in the process. Now, our transfer window is closed, but the European transfer window for players to leave, not yet closed. I have to get the date on that, and I'll put that somewhere on Twitter, maybe after this. Well, Como loaned out Nicolas Gioacchini, formerly of St. Louis FC, and a guy who's gotten U.S. men's national team looks plenty of times. They loaned out Gioacchini to FC Cincinnati for the remainder of this year. It was kind of a big get for FC Cincinnati. They were able to push two big players over the line right at the deadline to really start to change some things up for them. And it's possible, I'm just throwing this out there as a possibility, that Como is now looking at Kike Oliveira to replace Gioacchini up top and to potentially score some goals in Serie A this season. They said hamstring on the broadcast. I'm just saying that it may not have been a hamstring. It may have been a hamstring or it may have just been that Como FC asked politely to hold him back in case they could get something done. We saw the exact opposite happening in Philadelphia as Jose Martinez, who is an incredible piece for that club, and the fact that he's leaving Philadelphia after this match that they just played. So now they're going up against Columbus without like their main talisman in the midfield. Jose Martinez, he played in the match and said goodbye to everybody as he goes to Corinthians. I'm not saying Kike Oliveira is going anywhere, but there were those rumors with Como. Okay. So that's why there was no Kike Oliveira, even in the 18. In the 18, the players that you would see: David Martinez, Omar Campos, Eddie Segura, Olivier Giroud, who we started to see a little bit more physicality from Olivier Giroud, and making his LAFC debut, but not his MLS debut, because he played for DC United last year. But making his LAFC debut wearing the number 8 shirt. Number 8, Lewis O'Brien. And a quick pop quiz for all of you out there, and you can probably guess the answers on this one. But we've only had 2 players, just 2, wear the number 8 shirt before Lewis O'Brien. The 2 players, anybody? If I had Philly, we could banter. I could make him guess. He would probably get Pancho Ginella right off the top. We just said goodbye to Pancho for real now this time. But of course, the other player to wear the 8 shirt was the doomed Andre Horta. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that Lewis O'Brien has the potential to be the best player wearing the number 8 shirt that we have ever had. Andre Horta, very, very talented, just never showed it for us. Pancho Ginella really never got the chance. He got loaned out. He did play like 50 games for us. But Lewis O'Brien was definitely showing some pace, which was nice. I have a quote from Steve Cherundolo from the press conference after. We'll talk about Lewis O'Brien. I really liked the way he added a little bit of pace. And look, I'll say this right now. I'll give away one of my sources because, of course, he should be feeling this way. Our new technical director, Neil, absolutely loves Lewis O'Brien. So if Neil is sold on Lewis O'Brien, I'm sold on Lewis O'Brien because he is way smarter and way better at what he does than I would be if I were in his position. Our new technical director loves him. One of the reasons why they brought him in. So it was really nice to see Lewis O'Brien finally make his debut after getting his visa and all of his paperwork taken care of. One last little bit of roster cleanup. We know Hugo Lloris was starting in goal. Our backup goalkeeper, I don't know if there's a situation happening with our backup goalkeeper. It's Thomas Asal right now. And again, I just want to remind everybody out there, go back and look at the COVID Cup in 2020, the MLS is Back tournament, as they called it. Thomas Asal was one of the breakout stars of the COVID Cup. He had shutout after shutout after shutout and looked very, very good. And I think he was like 18 or 19 then, if I remember correctly, which means he's like 22 or 23 now. Still very, very young. With Abraham Romero going to Columbus, that left, goodness, the backup keeper job open for one of two players, at least two big names that we know of, Thomas Asal and David Ochoa. David Ochoa is not yet ready, in my opinion. I haven't seen it from him in what we've seen from LAFC 2, but he's probably a bigger name than Thomas Asal. But Thomas Asal had made a name for himself in that MLS is Back tournament, the COVID Cup. So not really a surprise that he was the only keeper listed on the roster availability besides Hugo Lloris. And look, for all of you joking out there, yes, I know Olivier Giroud could probably play backup keeper if we needed him to, because he did so a couple of times in his career. But that being said, we need Giroud to have the assists and Hugo Lloris to play keeper, not Hugo Lloris to have the assists and Olivier Giroud to play keeper. But we got one of those two things in this match for sure. So look, now that we've talked about the rosters, let's talk about the match. And really the first half is where it all went down. Yes, I know we scored in the second half, but in that first half, LAFC did a wonderful job of putting the ball away. We definitely withstood the initial pressure from Seattle. There was that one early dangerous moment by Paul Rothrock, just kind of by himself down the left-hand side, able to round. I think it was Murillo that he was able to round, but the ball just trickled out of the back line before he was able to get a touch on it. Hugo was right there anyway, and Hugo actually got a good touch on the ball because Rothrock kept playing until he heard the whistle, which is fine. But early on, I was like, oh, they might have something here down this left-hand side. They didn't go back to it a whole ton, which was a little surprising, especially by a Brian Schmetzer coached club. But in the 6th minute, can we talk about our passes from defenders in this match? As a defender of the bank myself, there is nothing better that I like to see than these incredible passes by our defenders. And there were not one, not two, but 3 incredible passes by a defender and a keeper assist. Are you kidding me? Defenders absolutely killing it. We'll talk about the Hugo assist in a second. But let's first talk about in the 6th minute, Jesus Murillo, a great ball in behind. I mean, an absolutely perfectly weighted, perfectly angled pass to Matty Bogusz, who takes it on the bounce and absolutely hammers it. A beautiful save by Stefan Fry. But go back and watch that 6th minute pass by Murillo. It was just absolutely beautiful. And the touch, Murillo is really, really trying to get his way up into the forward mix, it feels like, for this club. And that pass was a perfectly weighted, perfectly angled ball by Jesus Murillo. Absolutely incredible. In the 7th minute, I just really liked these early battles between Nuhu and Sergi Palencia. They're physical, they're fast, they're both pretty clean most of the time. He got a little upset at Sergi for potentially diving. But again, excuse me, guys, I've had this long COVID cough for like forever. I know that I should be able to hit the mute and dump button instead of coughing, but it's hard because it's just me and I'm both producing the episode. And then I got to find the dump button and everything else. And I got to talk the entire time. So I'm sorry about the occasional coughs, you guys. I know it's not the best podcast etiquette, but you know what? I'm doing the best I can. I've been COVID negative for weeks now, 2 weeks or so, but this cough has just stuck with me since COVID. Paul Rothrock, however, not a fan. You're a little whiny brat. And again, I don't care that you know that. In the 13th minute, we talked about Murillo's pass over the top to Matty Bogusz. Unreal. How about Ryan Hollingshead with a goal? And that's not happening unless it's Maxime Chenot with a wonderful ball over the top to Ryan on the left-hand side. And yes, I know. Ryan Hollingshead got a little lucky because it bounced off of not one, but two roll-downs, both Alex and Christian defending, actually not defending very well because Ryan Hollingshead got in behind both of you. But it takes one touch off of Ryan and then bounds off of those two and then right back to Ryan Hollingshead, who was able to put it away. It was a tentative looking Stefan Fry on that one too. I think he was hoping that one of the two roll-downs would have done something for him. Didn't do it. And in the 13th minute, LAFC takes a massive lead. I'd much rather play from in front than from behind, right? But it's when LAFC scores first, it's how much more lethal we are when teams have to open it up against us. Now, Seattle, in no way, shape, or form, looked rattled or played rattled the entire half. But I love when we get the first goal, and then all of a sudden, you get these teams to open up and you start breaking them down. Another big save by Stefan Fry on Matty Bogusz in the 17th minute. And by the way, it was off of another pass from a defender, but this was a long throw from Sergi Palencia headed out to the top of the box. Again, all you got to do is put the ball in a dangerous spot. That's exactly what Sergi did on that long throw. It was headed out directly to Matty Bogusz, who shot it with his left foot as Stefan Fry saved it from the top of the box. Now, off the counter from that save, a very dangerous moment for Seattle. They really could have equalized just a couple of minutes after we scored. Joao Paulo put the cross perfectly in to Paul Rothrock directly in the middle of our 18, basically at the top of the 6. Sergi Palencia kind of draped all over him, and he got a touch on it apparently because Rothrock pushes it just wide of goal, apparently because it was deflected for a corner. But what I love is on the ensuing corner, it's Kai Kamara getting up and winning the aerial battle so that LAFC can clear it. In the 24th minute, Matty Bogusz, again, he had to feel a little snake bit in this one for sure, as Stefan Fry makes another big save on Matty Bogusz. Yeimar came up high on that left-hand side to try to intercept the ball, totally whiffed on it, leaving Matty all alone down that left-hand side. He chops his defender to get one step into the right, and what a save by Stefan Fry. I mean, a very, very good quality save by Stefan Fry. We earn a corner, and in the 25th minute, on that corner that Matty Bogusz earned for us as Ryan Hollingshead slotted him the pass, and unfortunately Yeimar whiffs on the ball. We get a corner from all of that, and we capitalize on the corner. Another massive moment for LAFC as Seattle just couldn't clear. Jesus Murillo got his body in front of like 2 or 3 people. Ryan Hollingshead leaning on someone. Eduardo Tuesta leaning on someone. Just kind of making it a little murky and mucky there in the box. It bounced out to Kai Kamara. And the old man who's about to turn 40 years old, he did a karate kick with the right foot. Bounces it off that artificial turf away from Stefan Fry and into the back of the net. Kai Kamara, you're almost 40. You're not supposed to be doing these things, man. You are not supposed to be doing it. We have a Christian Philemon in the chat. I don't know if anybody knows who Christian Philemon is, but I do know that this podcast has a co-host named Philly, and I think that's the same guy. I love it. So Philly, welcome. Miss you, buddy. But Kai Kamara, I don't know how he is able to do all of the things that he does at like 40 years old. Philly is at the base of Tower Bridge in London, England right now. I am not jealous at all. I am at the base of my chair in Lawndale, California right now. Pretty much the same thing, right? Pretty much the same thing. Then I think what we saw in this match after the kickoff was that we woke up Seattle a little bit, down 2-0. Seattle absolutely played their best run over the next 10 minutes or so when they dominated the entire rest of the half. Seattle dominates the rest of the half. In the 27th minute, you have an Albert Rusnak chance as he fires just to Hugo's left. In the 29th minute, they get a corner kick again, but it's Kai Kamara winning it again, out for a header. Another corner in the 30th minute. They get a good run of possession, nothing for it. In the 32nd minute, Denis Bouanga gets called for a little bit of a dive, because he did. And on the ensuing set piece, they earn another corner that Hugo Lloris has to punch away. And in the 34th minute, another corner. Ryan Hollingshead has to clear it out the back. And then Kai Kamara clears it 2 more times. Are you kidding me? And by the way, in 2 of those corners that we were talking about, Ilie Sanchez also involved in defending. But you have moment after moment after moment for about 10 minutes where Seattle dominated possession and controlled the tempo. And those have got to be things that Steve Cherundolo looks at. That even though we're up 2-0, we can't take our foot off the gas, and we have to match the intensity of Seattle. Now, luckily, we come right back and put our foot on the gas after, again, about a 15-minute spell where we did not look very, very good. But in the 41st minute, what a chance for Denis Bouanga. He is going to be kicking himself for not scoring on this one, created beautifully by Ryan Hollingshead. So we have Jesus Murillo. We have Maxime Chanot. And now we have Ryan Hollingshead for the second time, because he's the one that slotted Maddie the pass too. But it wasn't a hard pass, that one by Ryan Hollingshead. But this one, I mean, it should have been 3-0 from Denis Bouanga. Ryan with a perfect long ball over the top. And it was a long ball, maybe 40 yards over the top. And all of a sudden, he's 1v1. Excuse me, with Stefan Fry. He looked to play it back across the left of Denis Bouanga, across the mouth of goal, and he hits that opposite post, and it comes back. No goal for Denis Bouanga. Just rough, unfortunately. Could have easily been 3-0 right there. And then right after that, by the way, we get the ball back, and the break is on again. This time, Edward Atuesta running the break, and he sees Matty Bogusz on the left, Kai Kamara on the right, and Jesus Murillo streaking down the middle. And to Murillo's credit, what a great break run by Jesus Murillo. We have seen this more and more from him now over these last few matches. The pass goes across one way, he dummies off the pass the first time. Pass goes across the second way, he dummies off the pass correctly again. It was an easy save from Stefan Fry, as Matty couldn't get a whole ton on it. But Jesus Murillo, is he trying to take the number 9 shirt or the number 99 shirt? We got to get him like a 9.9 shirt or something out there. He has been having so much fun running these breaks. They called a save on this shot from Joao Paulo from distance in the 44th minute. I only bring it up because it's the only save of the match for Hugo Lloris. It was never going in. You can see it from behind. The shot was curving away from goal, but Hugo had to touch it out of bounds for another corner kick. It was their best corner kick so far, by the way, as it got over the head of Kai Kamara behind our initial defenders, but nothing else got back to Hugo. There were a couple of dangerous touches for sure, but that team defending inside the box, LAFC doing such a wonderful job there. Seattle again working it into our box, Giggity, during the 1 minute of stoppage time, but nothing really getting through. And just like that, after just 1 minute of stoppage time, it's halftime. LAFC very efficient with relatively limited chances. 8 shots, 6 of them on target, 2 of them in the back of the net on just 35% possession in the first half. Incredible job by LAFC. You look at Seattle, and those same 8 shots only had 1 go on target, and that one wasn't even really on target. It shouldn't be a save. It was just a play out of the back there by Hugo. But either way, they had 65% of the possession and couldn't do a darn thing with it. So we move on to the second half. No changes at the half. In the 48th minute, Hugo has to come out and snag a pass pretty quickly. And you think, okay, Seattle's going to get ready to start testing Hugo Lloris and our back line a little bit more. Here comes that Brian Schmetzer-led second half comeback that we have seen time and time again. But Denis Bouanga and Hugo Lloris would have absolutely none of it. None of it. Stop me if you heard this before, 14 days ago or so. Hugo Lloris to Denis Bouanga for a goalkeeper assist for LAFC to go up 3-0 in the match. Hugo, unreal. It took him, 14 years in between assist number 1 and assist number 2. He got one in 2011, I believe it was. So it takes him 14 years to get, or it's 2010. I don't remember when his first assist was. It takes him 14 days to get his third. Unbelievable job by Hugo Lloris. Denis Bouanga streaking. And it's got to be cool when you know that your quarterback can throw the Hail Mary pass on a dime like that. Hugo Lloris to Denis Bouanga. This time it's off the inside of that far post and in, as Denis Bouanga had Nuhu draped all over his back. He goes to a sliding shot to make it happen. Denis Bouanga is just better than you and I at what he does by far. An incredible goal. And that goal is a significant one, as not only does it put LAFC up 3-0, but it allows Denis Bouanga to move into number 1 all-time in Leagues Cup goals with 11. He was in a tie with, some guy from Inter Miami named Lionel Messi. That also gives him his 17th goal contribution in Leagues Cup. He is absolutely incredible. And, oh, by the way, LAFC has scored 71 goals this season. 71 goals. Denis Bouanga has had a hand in 35 of those 71 goals. Almost half of our matches have been somewhat decided off the foot, off the head, off the pass, off the whatever of Denis Bouanga. He is unbelievable. So LAFC goes up 3-0. And then we see a yellow card for Christian Roldan for a foul on Ilie. And that's when I think Schmetzer just had enough. Leo Chu comes on for Paul Rothrock. Raul Ruiz-Diaz comes on for Christian Roldan. And Josh Atencio, the Olympian for the United States, comes on for Obed Vargas. And they did have a couple of good opportunities right after the subs. 63rd minute, Atencio's header off a corner. It has to be cleared sort of off the line. I don't know that was, again, on target, but Edward Atuesta, right where he needed to be, clears the header off the line. Then Raul Ruiz-Diaz's shot gets deflected, and kind of as a safety measure, Hugo tips it over the bar for another corner kick. Still having trouble clearing it in the 64th minute. Another great cross by Raul Ruiz-Diaz comes off of Jordan Morris's head, but he couldn't put it on frame. It was a couple of solid opportunities there. Again, we go up 2-0. They make a really good push for about 15 minutes. We go up 3-0. They make a pretty good push for a couple of minutes. But then in the 64th, a little bit of history for LAFC, as both Olivier Giroud comes on for Kai Kamara, and again, making his black and gold debut, wearing the number 8 shirt, was Lewis O'Brien coming in for Ilie. Welcome to the family, Lewis O'Brien. And he looked pretty good. We're going to talk more about Lewis O'Brien at the end. One thing to look at, maybe to worry about, to think about, as there's very, very little time. What we play again on the 21st, that's in just 3 days. In the 70th minute, it looked like Edward Atuesta took a little bit of a knock, or maybe it was a cramp. And I just was watching him and him alone for the next couple of minutes on the broadcast. He still wasn't really moving right. And then he just kind of went down behind the play and had to get stretchered off. I mean, guys, I've said it often enough on this podcast. Watching a soccer player get stretchered off and all of his limbs that are still attached and there's not a lot of blood involved, I don't know how I feel about it. I get it for like really bad hamstring injuries or calf pulls or something, but that's hope. I'm hoping that's not what Edward Atuesta has. Eddie Segura came on for Edward Atuesta there in the 73rd minute, as well as Reed Baker-Whiting coming on for Albert Rusnak. So you have Albert Rusnak out of the match, and you've got Christian Roldan and Obed Vargas and Paul Rothrock out of the match. Interesting to see the changes that Brian Schmetzer is making, potentially maybe living to fight another day. In the 77th minute, Seattle got another corner, And it was 11-1 at that point on corners. I was shocked at the disparity in corner kicks for sure. 11-1. The game wound up ending 12-1 on corner kicks for Seattle. LAFC with just one corner kick over the course of 90 minutes and still demolishing a very good Seattle team. 3-0, pretty impressive. There was kind of a weird restart there in the 80th minute. Bunch of different players got in front of everybody, and Raul Ruidiaz has to take like a toe shot from distance, well over the bar, nothing there to worry about. And then other than that, you guys, we saw David Martinez come on for Denny Bawanga in the 85th minute, and Omar Campos come on for Ryan in the 85th minute. I'm just saying, like, there was nothing that happened in the second half, guys. Hugo Lloris has to make one save over the course of 90 minutes. A couple of other balls he had to come out and get, or maybe push away or punch over the bar, but nothing where I would say like, oh, Seattle really missed a couple of good chances that got on frame. They weren't able to put some stuff on frame, which could have led this to be a very different match. It could have been a little closer to my 3-2 score prediction than the 3-0 that happened. But Ruben, I agree. Ruben says, shocked or just impressed about how our defenders defended. Look, I'm a defender of the bank. I love this. Defense wins championships. And our defense has been incredible. Another clean sheet for Hugo Lloris. Again, 3-0 LAFC on the final. And it wasn't that close. Again, Denis Bouanga now the leader in goals scored during the Leagues Cup competition with 11 all time. And something else to look at, by the way. 2 players for LAFC have played in all 450 minutes of Leagues Cup action so far this year. That would be Jesus Murillo and Aaron Long. 2 of our 3 center backs are the only 2 that have played all 450 minutes. Not even Hugo, because Abraham Romero started one match for us. Not even Hugo has played 450 minutes. Now, let's talk about a couple of quotes from Steve Cherundolo in the press conference. I'm going to read this quote verbatim from LAFC PR's transcript because I haven't seen any of the video yet. But here's the transcript on a quote from Steve Cherundolo about Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien was excellent. We just got his immigration work done in time for this match, and he was traveling a lot yesterday, didn't train with the group. But thankfully, it was pushed through and was done in time for this game to be another option for us off the bench tonight. His energy, his work rate, his ball winning, and then his ability to calm the game down with his passing, his positioning, and his ability to progress the ball forward was great. That's exactly what we expected, and we got it tonight. I'm happy for him. Guys, I got to tell you, there's a reason why Neil, our technical director, loves Lewis O'Brien. There's a reason why John Thorrington feels comfortable bringing him in at this point in the season. And there's a reason why Steve Cherundolo throws him out there with barely any training this week. It's because Lewis O'Brien is the real deal. He is going to give our midfield yet another option. With Ilie Sanchez getting a little bit older, with Timothy Tillman still hurt, and with us not really getting the production I think we would have liked maybe out of Eric Duenas in some limited minutes this season. And I feel bad saying that, but it's just kind of been the truth. Unfortunately, he's been bodied off the ball. Teams get overly physical with Eric Duenas this season. And until he proves that that can be shut down, they're going to continue to do that with Eric Duenas. I really like this option of Lewis O'Brien off the bench. And then he was asked about how David Martinez and how his transition has been coming for LAFC. And he says, at the moment, we are in more of a transition moment with this group, and this current formation we are playing, the 3-4-3, 3-5-2 kind of hybrid, isn't ideal for him personally. But once we do move back, and we will, to the 4-3-3, I think you're going to see what you expect of David, because he has incredible talent and he's a wonderful young man who is still maturing and growing also physically. I want to repeat this. But once we do move back, and we will, to the 4-3-3, interesting. Very interesting by Steve Cherundolo. Could this just be him giving opposing coaches something to think about in Philadelphia or in Columbus? Could this be giving opposing coaches something to think about down in Carson when we play them later next month? I don't know. But frankly, the 3-4-3, this hybrid that we've been running, or the 5-2-3, whatever it is that we want to call it, it's been a really successful formation for us, especially when we're getting our depth up to speed. Now, I think what Steve Trundolo is saying is that once you're able to have the depth at each of the lines, a 4-3-3 actually serves us a little bit better. It makes us deeper with our center backs because we're only playing two. Only playing two. I love it. We're only playing two center backs in a 4-3-3. You have either Sergi or Ryan or Omar on the wings. So you've got one depth piece there. And then you've got either Long, Murillo, or Chanot on the back line. You've got a depth piece there. And who knows where you slot in Eddie Segura. Is he a wingback? Is he a midfielder? Is he a center back still? I don't know. We got a lot of options with Eddie Segura. He does really help us out. And when you're playing a 4-3-3 in the midfield, obviously you have your three. But when Timothy Tillman is healthy, when Lewis O'Brien is completely up to speed, Matty Bogusz, Edward Atuesta, Ilya Sanchez, I mean, those are five guys that any team would be starting right now in Major League Soccer. And of course, up top, you now have a backup number 9 in Kai Kamara, who is as solid as it gets with Olivier Giroud. You have Kiki Oliveira, you have Denis Bouanga, you have David Martinez. You have options up top, which are certainly a lot of fun. And don't forget Nathan Ordaz, by the way, who could really inject some speed into the offense. I know he still has a little bit of trouble with his first touch sometimes. But again, the more and more deeper we get as this season goes on, the better and better that it gets. So what does that mean for LAFC? Well, BMO Stadium, folks, 7 p.m. Wednesday, August 21st. I believe tickets are on sale, according to Rob in our chat. Wednesday, August 21st, this Wednesday, in 3 days. Wednesday, August 21st, 7 p.m. We host the Colorado Rapids in the Leagues Cup Semifinal. And I want to remind you, after we beat Colorado, and Jason, I saw your post there, LAFC Falconer. I love it. I love it. But after we beat Colorado, the final will be on the road no matter what, either Philadelphia or Columbus, as they are seated higher in this tournament than we are. They will get the home match. So we'll have to travel to either Philly or back to Columbus, where we were last year for the MLS Cup final. We'll see what happens there. Just want to remind you guys, we're still involved in another semifinal. The 28th, just 10 days from now, we will be back up near Seattle in beautiful Tukwila, Washington, at the Starfire Sports Complex, Wednesday, August 28th, 1 week after our Leagues Cup semifinal. And there's no Vancouver match. We talked about this at the top of the episode. No Vancouver match on the 24th. As a reminder, that Vancouver match, which was supposed to be played on August 24th, Saturday, has been moved to Sunday, October 13th. That's away at Vancouver. And in case you're curious when our next MLS match is, because it's been a while since we played an MLS match, that's Saturday, August 31st. So still, you're looking at 2 full weeks from today when we play at home at BMO against the Houston Dynamo. Whoo! LAFC has a lot of significant games coming up, you guys. I said this before. We now have a semifinal in this tournament to play. We have a semifinal in the Open Cup to play. We are trying to get Champions League spots on top of Champions League spots. All Carson has to worry about for the rest of the season are their MLS Cup matches. They were never in Open Cup. They got eliminated in Leagues Cup. So, it's going to be really interesting. I think it's absolutely imperative that LAFC takes home one of, if not both of these trophies, so that we can salt away our Champions League spot, and then we can really set ourselves up for the rest of the MLS Cup season by being able to maybe rest an extra player or two by not having to push so hard for the Supporters Shield or for the Western Conference crown. Look, I want to beat Carson every time we play Carson, but I don't necessarily want to win the Supporters Shield or the Western Conference. by running the same 11 guys into the ground over the last few months of the season. Luckily, the schedule opens up nicely in September and October. There's not a ton going on in September and October, so that we can get guys healthy. We can maybe rest a few more guys organically that way. But if we can just salt away our Champions League spot, win Leagues Cup, win Open Cup, win both, then I think you're looking at a club that can really kind of sit back and pick our battles a little bit. Oral Hershiser, for the longest time, used to talk about how he used to pitch 150, 160 pitches a game. He said, I couldn't do that now in today's Major League Baseball because you got guys that are hitting power shots up and down the lineup. But back then, there were a couple of guys that I knew I didn't have to throw my best stuff to. And even some of the better guys, I didn't have to throw my best stuff every single pitch. If LAFC can get through the rest of the season without throwing their best stuff every single pitch, then it will set us up for something that could be unparalleled in Major League Soccer. Our third straight MLS Cup final, our second MLS Cup trophy in the last 3 years, on top of potentially winning Leagues Cup and or Open Cup. I mean, come on. That's the treble if I've ever heard of one right there. We don't even need the Supporter Shield at that point. Y'all can have it. Be absolutely an incredible season. Either way, you guys, it's going to be so much fun because on Tuesday, I'll be back with one more sleep. Philly, are you still with us? Philly, are you around? Are you in the chat? I know you were, but I mean, you're in London, so I'd really not expect you to be following along anymore. But Philly, if you're in the chat, when do you get back? I got one more sleep on Tuesday. Then we've got a match on Wednesday. Then we've got our episode on Thursday. And then we're going to be talking about our next match just a couple of days later. Woo! It's fun times, you guys. It is fun times. Thank you all for everybody in the chat. Ruben, Schmurdy, Cougar, everybody. I absolutely love you guys. Philly, miss you, buddy. Get back here soon. Travel safe. And for all of you out there, you guys are amazing. You are why we do this. You are what makes this so much fun. Everybody on Instagram, everybody on Twitter, everybody on Facebook, everybody on YouTube's. It's going to be so much fun to be able to lift all these trophies this season if LAFC just keeps playing the way we do. And you know how we like to end every single episode here on Defenders of the Bank. Bye-bye.